The big doors of the Galactic Council meeting room opened with a loud crash. Heavy footsteps echoed through the huge round chamber as Ambassador Vextar walked inside. His body was covered in thick, shiny armor that looked like the shell of a giant insect. Behind him came 20 of his best soldiers. Each one carried weapons that glowed with blue light and made soft humming sounds. Every alien in the room turned to look at the newcomers. The council had representatives from 47 different species. Some looked like tall trees with moving branches. Others were covered in colorful feathers or had skin that changed colors. A few floated in special tanks filled with water. But all of them were afraid. Vextar's eyes were like those of a fly, made up of thousands of tiny parts. He looked around the room slowly, enjoying the fear he saw. His mouth opened to show rows of sharp teeth. When he smiled, it was not friendly at all. The council leader, a being called Thisara, stood up from her chair. She was tall and thin, with pale blue skin that seemed to glow softly. Her voice shook a little when she spoke. Ambassador Vextar of the Dominion Empire, we welcome you to our council meeting. We hope you have come to discuss peace. Vextar laughed. The sound was like metal scraping against stone. Peace? You think I came here to talk about peace? He walked to the center of the room. His soldiers spread out behind him, blocking the exits. I came here to give you a choice. A simple choice that even weak creatures like you can understand. The ambassador pressed a button on his arm. A large picture appeared in the air above the room. It showed a beautiful planet with green forests and blue oceans. Then the picture changed. The same planet was now black and smoking. Nothing was alive on it. This was the world of the Kethamari people. They thought they were safe behind their shields and weapons. They were wrong. More pictures appeared. Each one showed the same thing. Beautiful worlds turned into dead rocks, cities that were now piles of broken stone, forests that were nothing but ash. The Dominion Empire is growing. We take what we want. We destroy what we do not need. For 3 years, we have been moving through your space, taking your worlds, making your people our slaves. A small alien with silver fur started to cry. His planet had been one of the ones shown in the pictures. Vextar saw this and smiled wider. You sent us messages asking us to stop. You said we were breaking your laws. You said we were being unfair. He laughed again. Laws fair? These words mean nothing to the strong. Thisara tried to speak, but Vextar held up his hand to stop her. I did not come here to listen to your complaints. I came here to tell you what will happen next. You have 10 days to decide, 10 days to choose your future. He pressed another button. A new picture appeared. This one showed the council station where they were meeting now. In the picture, the station was breaking apart and burning. Choice 1, you surrender to the Dominion Empire. You give us control of all your worlds, all your people, all your resources. You become our servants. If you choose this, we will let most of you live. You will work for us, but you will live. The room was completely quiet. Even the aliens who needed to make noise to breathe were trying to stay silent. Choice 2, you refuse our generous offer. If you choose this, we will destroy everything. Every world in your council will burn. Every city will fall. Every one of your people will die. We will turn your space into empty darkness. A bird-like alien with bright red feathers stood up. You cannot do this. The council has rules. The Galaxy Court will stop you. Vextar moved faster than anyone expected. In one quick step, he was standing in front of the bird alien. His hand grabbed the alien's neck and lifted him off the ground. Rules. Courts? Where were your rules when we took the Zephyr colonies? Where was your court when we destroyed the Merdon fleet? He threw the bird alien back into his chair. Your rules only work if someone is strong enough to make others follow them. You are not strong enough. He walked back to the center of the room. Look around you. Look at your mighty council. I see fish that need machines to help them breathe air. I see plants that cannot move without wheels. I see creatures so weak that they shake when I speak. Vextar was right. The council members were not warriors. They were scientists, traders, artists, and philosophers. They had built their civilization on sharing knowledge and helping each other. They had never learned how to fight wars. The Dominion Empire has conquered 1,000 worlds. Our soldiers are born to fight. Our ships are built to destroy. Our weapons can crack planets in half. What do you have to fight us with? Poems? Science experiments? Friendship? Thisara stood up again. This time her voice was stronger. We have something you do not understand, Vextar. We have hope. We have the belief that good will always defeat evil in the end. Hope? Vextar laughed so hard that spit flew from his mouth. Hope will not stop my warships. Hope will not protect your families when my soldiers come for them. He turned to leave but stopped at the door. 10 days. That is all the time you have. Use it well. Pray to whatever gods you believe in. Write letters to your loved ones. Do whatever weak creatures do when they are about to die. The doors slammed shut behind him and his soldiers. The council chamber was silent for a long time. Finally, an old alien with too many arms to count spoke up. What do we do now? Our combined fleets cannot stop them. Our weapons are nothing compared to theirs. Thisara sat down heavily in her chair. She looked older than her many years. I do not know. For the first time in my life, I do not know what to do. Perhaps, said a quiet voice from the back of the room. It is time. Everyone turned to look. The speaker was Merthak, the council's oldest historian. He was so old that his species had forgotten exactly when he was born. His skin was like old paper and his eyes were cloudy with age. Time for what, old friend? Thisara asked. Merthak moved slowly to the front of the room. Each step took effort. Time to wake the sleepers. Time to remember the agreement we made 400 years ago. The younger council members looked confused, but the older ones began to understand. Thisara's eyes grew wide. The humans, she whispered. Yes, Merthak said. The humans. The ones we asked to sleep. The ones we thought we would never need again. The guardians who promised to wake up if the galaxy was ever in real danger. He looked around the room at all the scared faces. I think 10 days from now, Vextar is going to learn why the Dominion Empire should have been more careful about who they threatened. For the first time since Vextar had left, someone in the council chamber smiled. Deep under the council station, in places most people had forgotten existed, old machines started to wake up. Lights that had been dark for 200 years began to glow. Computer screens flickered to life. Warning sounds echoed through empty hallways that had not heard footsteps in a very long time. Merthak led a small group through these forgotten corridors. His old legs moved slowly, but he knew exactly where he was going. Behind him walked Thisara and 3 other council leaders. They all carried special lights because this part of the station had been sealed off for so long. The walls were covered with frost. Their breath came out in white clouds as they walked deeper into the cold sections. Every few steps, Merthak would stop and put his hand on a wall panel. Each time, more lights would turn on, leading them further into the darkness. How much further? Asked Council Member Zephyr, who was shivering despite his thick fur coat. Not much longer, Merthak replied. The human quarters are in the deepest part of the station. They wanted to be as far from normal life as possible. They came to a huge door made of metal so thick it looked like it could stop a spaceship. Strange symbols were carved into its surface. Thisara could read some of them. They were warnings in dozens of different languages, all saying the same thing. Do not enter without proper authority. Emergency protocols only. Merthak placed his wrinkled hand on a scanner next to the door. A red light swept over his palm, reading the lines and marks that proved who he was. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a sound like thunder, the massive door began to open. The air that rushed out was so cold it hurt to breathe. But there was something else in that air. Something that made all of them feel strange. It was the smell of sleep, of time stopped, of lives waiting to begin again. Beyond the door was a space so large they could not see the end of it. Rows and rows of white containers stretched into the distance. Each container was about the size of a small room, and each one had a window on top. Soft blue light came from inside every container. How many are there? Thisara asked in a whisper. The records say 50,000, Merthak answered. 50,000 human soldiers, scientists, engineers, and leaders. All sleeping. All waiting. They walked between the rows of containers. Through the windows they could see shapes inside. People floating in a thick liquid that kept them alive while they slept. Men and women of all ages, all sizes, all colors. But they all had the same peaceful look on their faces. Zephyr stopped at one container and looked inside. They look so normal, so small. Are we sure these are the same humans from the old stories? Merthak nodded. These are the same humans who ended the War of Seven Suns. The same ones who stopped the Machine Rebellion. The same ones who saved the Ethereal Collective from the Dark Fleet. He led them to a control room in the center of the vast chamber. Inside were computers and screens that showed the status of every sleeping human. Green lights blinked steadily, showing that all the sleepers were healthy and safe. Tell us again, Thisara said. Tell us the real story. The one the young council members do not know. Murthak sat down in an old chair and closed his eyes. When he spoke, his voice sounded like he was remembering a dream. The humans came to us 400 years ago. Their ship was not the biggest or the most beautiful. It was just a simple metal box with engines, but when they spoke to us, we knew they were different. He opened his eyes and looked at the screens showing all the sleeping humans. They did not want anything from us, not trade deals or protection or special favors. They just wanted to help. They said they had heard about the Galactic Council and thought it was a good idea. They wanted to be part of it. But they were warriors, Zephyr said. Why did warriors want to join a council of peace? That is exactly why, Murthak replied. They said they were good at fighting, but they did not like fighting. They said fighting should only happen when there was no other choice. When good people needed protection from evil ones. Thaisara remembered some of the old stories her grandmother had told her. They fought in many wars for us. Yes. Whenever someone threatened the peace, the humans would come. They never started fights, but they always finished them. They saved species that could not save themselves. They stopped wars before they could spread. They made sure the strong could not hurt the weak. Murthak stood up and walked to a wall covered with pictures. They showed humans working with other species, building hospitals, schools, and homes on worlds that had been destroyed by war, teaching alien children how to read, helping old aliens who were sick or hurt. But then something changed, he continued. The galaxy became peaceful. There were no more big wars, no more evil empires trying to conquer everyone. The humans had done their job too well. So why did they choose to sleep? Thaisara asked. Because they were wise, Murthak said. They knew that their nature was to fight. Even when they tried to be peaceful, they would find reasons to disagree with others. They would ask hard questions that made people uncomfortable. They would want to change things that other species thought were fine the way they were. He touched one of the pictures. It showed a human woman holding an alien baby. So they made us an offer. They said they would go to sleep until the galaxy needed them again. They would build a place here in our station where they could wait. They would trust us to wake them up only when there was real danger. Only when the peace they had helped create was truly threatened. And we agreed, Thaisara said quietly. We agreed. We thought it was best for everyone. The galaxy could have peace and we would still have the humans' protection if we ever needed it. It seemed like the perfect solution. Zephyr looked around at all the sleeping humans. But what if they are angry when they wake up? What if they blame us for letting things get so bad? Murthak smiled for the first time since they had entered the chamber. These are humans, young one. They do not get angry at people for asking for help. They get angry at people who hurt others and think they can get away with it. He walked to the main control panel and placed his hand on a large red button. The question is not whether they will help us. The question is whether the Dominion Empire understands what they have awakened. Thaisara looked at all the peaceful faces in the containers around them. Soon these sleeping guardians would open their eyes for the first time in 2 centuries. Soon, they would learn about the threat facing the galaxy. And soon the Dominion Empire would learn why some species choose to sleep with one eye open. Do it, she said. Wake them up. All of them. Murthak pressed the button. The first thing that happened was the sound. A deep humming filled the air as thousands of machines started working at the same time. The humming grew louder and louder until the council members had to cover their ears. Lights began flashing on every container. The blue glow inside each one started to change, becoming brighter and warmer. Thaisara and the others stepped back as the first container near them began to open. Steam poured out as the lid lifted up. The thick liquid inside started to drain away through tubes in the bottom. They could see a shape moving inside as the person began to wake up. A woman sat up slowly in the container. Her skin was dark brown and her black hair was cut short. She looked around with sharp, intelligent eyes that seemed to see everything at once. She was not very tall, but there was something about the way she held herself that made her seem larger than she really was. The woman stepped out of the container with smooth, easy movements. She did not seem confused or scared like someone who had just woken up from a very long sleep. Instead, she looked like someone who had just finished taking a short nap and was ready to get back to work. "Status report," she said in a clear, strong voice. Murthak stepped forward. "Admiral Chen, my name is Murthak. I am the council historian. You have been asleep for 215 years. We have activated the emergency wake-up protocol because the galaxy is in danger." Admiral Chen nodded once. "Understood. What is the nature of the threat?" All around them, more containers were opening. Men and women of all ages were sitting up and stepping out. Some had skin as dark as night, others as pale as snow. Some were tall, others short. Some were young. Others showed lines of age on their faces, but they all had the same look in their eyes. Alert. Ready. Dangerous. An empire called the Dominion has been conquering worlds throughout the galaxy, Thesera explained. Their ambassador came to the council yesterday. He gave us 10 days to surrender or they will destroy everything. 10 days, Admiral Chen repeated. She looked around at her people who were waking up. How large is their military? What are their capabilities? Do we have current intelligence on their fleet positions? Zephyr was amazed at how quickly the humans were becoming active. Most species needed days or weeks to recover from long sleep. But these humans were asking for information and making plans within minutes of waking up. We have some information, Mirthak said, but it may not be complete. The Dominion has been very careful to keep their full strength secret. That's fine, Admiral Chen said. We'll get the information we need. How many of my people are you waking up? All of them, Thesera answered. All 50,000. Admiral Chen raised one eyebrow. All of them? This threat must be serious indeed. She turned to a tall man with gray hair who had just stepped out of a nearby container. General Rodriguez, start getting everyone organized. I want full status reports on all personnel and equipment within 6 hours. Yes, ma'am, the general replied. He immediately started walking toward other containers, speaking to people as they woke up. Captain Tanaka, Admiral Chen called to a woman with Asian features who was helping others out of their containers. I need you to start gathering intelligence on this Dominion Empire. Everything you can find. I want to know how they fight, what they're afraid of, and where they keep their important stuff. Already on it. Admiral, Captain Tanaka replied. Thesera watched in amazement as the humans organized themselves. There was no confusion, no arguments about who should do what. Everyone seemed to know exactly what their job was and how to do it well. Admiral, Mirthak said carefully, there is something else you should know. The galaxy has changed since you went to sleep. Many species have become very peaceful. They do not know how to fight wars anymore. The Council has no real military force. Admiral Chen looked at him with those sharp eyes. Are you telling me that you've forgotten how to defend yourselves? Not forgotten, Thesera said quickly. We just never needed to learn. There have been no major wars since you went to sleep. The galaxy has been peaceful. Peaceful, Admiral Chen repeated. And now someone is threatening to destroy that peace and you have no way to stop them. That is correct, Mirthak admitted. Admiral Chen was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. It was not a mean smile or a cruel smile. It was the smile of someone who had just been given a job they knew they could do very well. Well then, she said, it's a good thing you woke us up. More and more humans were emerging from their containers. Thesera could see that they were not all soldiers. Some wore different uniforms that showed they were engineers, doctors, scientists, and specialists in many different fields, but they all moved with the same confident purpose. Commander Okafor, Admiral Chen called to a large man with dark skin and kind eyes. Start setting up medical facilities. I want every one of our people checked out and cleared for duty. Also, see if any of our council friends need medical attention. They look stressed. Commander Okafor looked at the council members and smiled warmly. Don't worry, he said in a gentle voice. We're here now. Everything will be fine. Somehow hearing those simple words made Thesera feel better than she had since Vextar's visit. Admiral Chen, she said, there is something else. The Dominion ambassador Vextar was very confident. He seemed to believe that nothing in the galaxy could stop his forces. He laughed at the idea that anyone could challenge the Dominion Empire. Admiral Chen's smile became sharper. Did he? How interesting. It's been a long time since we met someone who was that confident about their fighting abilities. You're not concerned? Zephyr asked. Concerned? Admiral Chen looked around at her people, who were now moving with smooth efficiency to set up equipment and organize themselves. Young friend, I'm not concerned. I'm excited. Do you know how boring it is to sleep for 200 years? Do you know how good it feels to wake up and find out that someone needs our help? She turned to face all the council members. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to learn everything there is to know about this Dominion Empire. We're going to figure out exactly how they fight and what they're planning to do. And then we're going to have a conversation with Ambassador Vextar. A very educational conversation. What kind of conversation? Thisara asked. Admiral Chen's smile was now definitely dangerous. The kind where he learns the difference between confidence and stupidity. 3 days had passed since the humans woke up. The council station felt different now. There was an energy in the air that had not been there before. Council members who had been walking around looking scared and hopeless now moved with purpose. The humans had that effect on people. In the main council chamber, Ambassador Vextar sat in his chair looking pleased with himself. He had come back to hear the council's answer to his ultimatum. Behind him stood his usual group of heavily armed soldiers. Their weapons hummed with energy, and their eyes scanned the room for any sign of trouble. The council members were all in their seats, but something was different about them. They sat up straighter. They looked directly at Vextar instead of avoiding his gaze. Thisara in particular seemed much calmer than she had 3 days ago. "Well," Vextar said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "Have you made your decision? Will you surrender to the Dominion Empire, or do you choose to die?" Thisara stood up slowly. "We have made our decision, Ambassador Vextar, but before we give you our answer, there is someone else who would like to speak with you." Vextar's compound eyes focused on her with annoyance. "Someone else? Who could possibly have anything important to say? I did not come here to waste time listening to more of your weak speeches." "Oh, I think you'll find this person very interesting," Thisara said with a small smile. The main doors to the chamber opened. Admiral Chen walked in, followed by 5 other humans. They were not wearing the heavy armor or carrying the big weapons that Vextar's soldiers had. They looked like ordinary people in simple uniforms. But the way they moved, the way they looked around the room made it clear that they were anything but ordinary. Vextar stared at the newcomers. "What is this? What species are these creatures? I do not recognize them." "These are humans, Ambassador," Thisara said. "I believe you have heard of them." For the first time since arriving at the station, Vextar looked uncertain. Humans, but humans are just a myth. A story that old species tell to make themselves feel better about being weak. Admiral Chen walked to the center of the chamber. She moved with the easy confidence of someone who had been in many dangerous situations and survived them all. When she spoke, her voice was calm and clear. "Hello, Ambassador Vextar. My name is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Federation. I represent the human response to your recent threats against the Galactic Council." Vextar recovered his confidence quickly. He stood up and looked down at the much smaller human. "Human response? What could a primitive species like yours possibly do against the might of the Dominion Empire?" Admiral Chen smiled. It was a pleasant, friendly smile that somehow made Vextar's soldiers grip their weapons tighter. "I'm glad you asked," she said. "Let me show you something." She pressed a button on a small device she was carrying. Suddenly, the air above the chamber filled with pictures and data. But these were not the kind of pictures the Council usually showed. These were detailed maps of military bases, lists of ship numbers and locations, and photographs of secret installations. Vextar's eyes grew wide as he recognized what he was seeing. "How did you get this information?" "These are classified Dominion military secrets." "Oh, this is just the beginning," Admiral Chen said cheerfully. "We've been awake for 3 days now. In that time, we've learned quite a lot about your empire. For example, we know that you have 347 major warships, divided between 12 different fleets. We know where each fleet is located right now. We know which bases they use for supplies and repairs." She pressed the button again. New pictures appeared showing the inside of Dominion ships and bases. "We also know about your secret weapons research facility on Darkness Moon, your slave labor camps on 7 different worlds, and the location of your emperor's private palace. Oh, and we know about the civil war that's been brewing in your outer territories for the past 2 years. The one your government has been trying to keep secret." Vextar's jaw fell open. Some of this information was so secret that even he, as an ambassador, did not know about it. "This is impossible," he said. "Our security is perfect. Our codes cannot be broken. Our spies are everywhere, but we have never detected any human intelligence operations." "That's because you weren't looking for us," Admiral Chen replied. "You see, we've been asleep for over 200 years, but our computer systems have been awake the whole time. They've been watching and listening and learning. They know everything about everyone in the galaxy, including you." Captain Tanaka, one of the humans standing behind Admiral Chen, stepped forward. "We know that your empire is not as strong as you pretend it is. Half of your fleet is old and needs constant repairs. Your soldiers are starting to question why they're fighting wars for leaders who treat them badly. And your economy is falling apart because you spend all your money on weapons instead of taking care of your people. Vextar looked around at his soldiers. He could see doubt in their eyes now. Everything the humans were saying was true, and everyone in the room could tell. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice much quieter than before. Admiral Chen's smile became sharper. "I'm so glad you asked. We want you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to tell you. Consider it a counteroffer to your ultimatum." She walked closer to Vextar, close enough that he could see the absolute certainty in her eyes. The Dominion Empire has 48 hours to begin withdrawing from all occupied territories. You will release all slaves and prisoners. You will allow neutral observers to visit all your military bases to make sure you're following the rules. And you will present your leaders for trial for war crimes against innocent populations. "And if we refuse?" Vextar asked, though his voice was shaking now. "If you refuse, we will dismantle your entire empire piece by piece. We will free every enslaved world. We will destroy every warship that refuses to surrender. We will hunt down every war criminal and bring them to justice. And we will do it all in less time than it took you to threaten the Council." The chamber was completely silent. Even the background hum of the station's life support system seemed to have stopped. "You cannot be serious," Vextar said. "You are just one species. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. We have fleets that can destroy solar systems." Admiral Chen nodded thoughtfully. "You're right. You do have big fleets and powerful weapons. But you have one major weakness." "What weakness?" Admiral Chen's smile became positively predatory. "You picked a fight with humans. And humans have a very simple rule. We do not allow bullies to hurt innocent people. Ever." She turned and started walking toward the door. The other humans followed her. 48 hours, Ambassador," she called over her shoulder. "Use the time wisely." As the humans left the chamber, Vextar sank back into his chair. For the first time in his life, he was truly afraid. Vextar did not believe the humans could do what they claimed. As soon as he left the Council station, he sent messages to all Dominion fleets. The orders were simple. Destroy the Council station and everyone on it. Show the galaxy what happened to those who dared to threaten the Dominion Empire. Within 6 hours, 3 full Dominion battle fleets were moving toward the Council station. Each fleet had over 50 warships, including massive carriers that held thousands of fighter craft. The Dominion's living ships were their pride and joy, vessels that could heal themselves when damaged and adapt their weapons during battle. Admiral Vexkoth, commander of the First Fleet, was excited about the coming battle. He had heard the stories about humans, but he thought they were just myths told by weak species to make themselves feel brave. Even if humans were real, how dangerous could they be? They had been asleep for 200 years. Their technology would be old and useless. The first sign that something was wrong came when his ships dropped out of hyperspace near the Council station. His sensors showed empty space where the human fleet should have been waiting. There were no ships defending the station at all. "Where are they?" Admiral Vexkoth asked his crew. "Where are the human ships?" His sensor officer, a young Dominion warrior named Sektar, checked his instruments carefully. "Sir, I detect no enemy vessels in this system. Our intelligence report said the humans had a fleet, but there is nothing here." "Good," Admiral Vexkoth said. "They ran away when they saw we were coming. Now we can destroy the station without resistance." He was about to give the order to attack when Sektar spoke again. "Sir, wait. I'm detecting something strange. There are shapes moving in the asteroid field near the station." Admiral Vexkoth looked at his main screen. At first he saw nothing but rocks floating in space. Then slowly the rocks began to change. What he had thought were asteroids started to unfold like flowers blooming. Metal surfaces that had been perfectly disguised revealed themselves to be the hulls of ships. "Impossible," he whispered. 50 human warships materialized out of what had seemed like empty space. They had been hiding in plain sight, their ships disguised so perfectly that even Dominion sensors could not detect them. But now they revealed themselves, and Admiral Vexkoth saw something that made his blood run cold. The human ships were like nothing he had ever seen before. They were not the crude metal boxes he had expected. These vessels moved like living things, flowing through space with a grace that seemed to defy physics. Their hulls shimmered with energy fields that made them almost impossible to target accurately. "Attack," Admiral Vexkoth shouted. "All ships, open fire!" The Dominion fleet launched everything they had. Energy beams, missiles, plasma bombs, and swarms of fighter craft all screamed toward the human ships. It was enough firepower to destroy a small moon, but the humans were no longer where the weapons were aimed. Admiral Chen, commanding the human fleet from her flagship, watched the Dominion attack with calm interest. "Predictable," she said to her bridge crew. "They're fighting like they always have. No imagination, no flexibility." The human ships moved in ways that seemed impossible. They slipped between enemy fire like dancers avoiding raindrops. When Dominion weapons did hit them, the shots seemed to slide off harmless energy shields that flickered around each ship like soap bubbles. "Return fire," Admiral Chen ordered. "Let's show them how this is done." The human weapons were different from anything the galaxy had seen before. Instead of the crude energy beams most species used, the humans fired weapons that seemed to think for themselves. Missiles that could change direction in mid-flight to chase targets. Energy beams that could bend around obstacles to hit enemies hiding behind cover. And stranger weapons that Admiral Vexkoth could not even identify. The first Dominion ship to be hit simply came apart. Not exploded, not burned. It just separated into its component pieces as if someone had carefully taken it apart and left the pieces floating in space. The crew was unharmed, protected by emergency life support systems, but their ship was completely useless. "What kind of weapon does that?" Sektar asked in amazement. Admiral Vexkoth had no answer. He watched in growing horror as ship after ship in his fleet was disabled by the humans, not destroyed. The humans seemed to be very careful not to kill anyone they did not have to. But his mighty warships were being turned into helpless metal shells floating in space. "Retreat," he finally ordered. "All ships retreat immediately." But it was too late. The human ships had surrounded his fleet while he was trying to figure out what was happening. Every time a Dominion ship tried to escape, it found its path blocked by humans who seemed to know exactly where it was going to go. The battle lasted 17 minutes. When it was over, the entire Dominion fleet was floating helplessly in space. Not a single human ship had been seriously damaged. Admiral Chen opened a communication channel to the Dominion ships. "This is Admiral Chen to all Dominion forces. You are now prisoners of war. We will provide medical assistance to any injured personnel and return you to Dominion space after this conflict is resolved. Any ship that attempts to self-destruct will be stopped." Similar battles were happening throughout Dominion space. Human fleets appeared without warning at military bases and fleet positions. The fighting was always the same, quick, decisive, and with minimal loss of life. The humans seemed more interested in capturing Dominion forces than destroying them. On the Dominion homeworld, Emperor Graktul received reports of defeat after defeat. In less than one day, half of his empire's military had been captured or disabled. The humans were not just winning, they were making it look easy. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his advisors. "We are the greatest military power in the galaxy." His chief military advisor, General Hexmar, looked at the reports with disbelief. "Sir, the humans are not fighting like any enemy we have faced before. They seem to know exactly where our ships will be and what we will do before we do it. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours, and they are fighting with a level of coordination that should be impossible." The final blow came when human Marines appeared inside the Emperor's palace. They had somehow gotten past all the guards, all the security systems, and all the defenses without being detected. They stood in the throne room, politely waiting for the Emperor to notice them. "Your Imperial Majesty," said the leader of the Marines, a woman with graying hair and gentle eyes. "My name is Colonel Martinez. I am here to place you under arrest for war crimes against civilian populations." Emperor Graktul looked around his throne room. His guards were unconscious but unharmed. His security systems had been turned off but not damaged. The humans had taken control of his palace without hurting anyone. "How?" he asked weakly. Colonel Martinez smiled kindly. "We're very good at our job, sir. Now, if you would please come with us. There are some people at the council station who would like to speak with you." Within 1 week of Admiral Chen's ultimatum, the Dominion Empire had surrendered completely. Their leaders were in custody, their fleets were captured, and their conquered worlds were being liberated by human forces working with local populations. Ambassador Vextar, now a prisoner himself, was brought before the council for judgment. As he stood in chains in the same chamber where he had once threatened everyone, he looked up at Admiral Chen. "I do not understand," he said. "How did you defeat us so easily? We were the strongest force in the galaxy. Admiral Chen looked down at him with something that might have been pity. You made a mistake, Ambassador. You confused fear with strength. You thought that because people were afraid of you, that made you powerful. But real strength comes from protecting others, not from hurting them. She turned to address the entire council. The Dominion threat is over. Their empire will be dismantled peacefully, and their former subjects will be free to choose their own governments. War criminals will be tried fairly, and those who were just following orders will be allowed to return home. Thisara stood up. What about you and your people, Admiral? Will you stay awake now that the crisis is over? Admiral Chen smiled. No, I think we'll go back to sleep. The galaxy is peaceful again, and that's how we like it. But remember, we'll always be here if you need us. And next time, maybe you won't wait quite so long to ask for help. As the humans prepared to return to their long sleep, the galaxy began to heal from the wounds the Dominion had caused. Worlds were rebuilt, families were reunited, and peace returned to the stars. And in the deepest parts of the Council Station, 50,000 humans went back to their dreams, secure in the knowledge that they had once again protected those who could not protect themselves. The galaxy was safe, and that was all that mattered.